Good afternoon, everyone. Feedback there. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Where's that coming from?
Just his fault.
1, 2. That's better. Okay. We'll try that third time lucky. So you're very welcome, everyone here today to the Planning Committee of Derry City and Strabane District Council sitting here in the chamber at Derry Road in Strabane. So welcome to all our elected members in the first instance, and then of course to welcome all of those who joined us in the public gallery, applicants, agents, and etc. etc. So again, you're all very welcome. If this is your first time here, hopefully you'll find it interesting. And if you don't find it interesting, maybe you'll never come back again. You never know. It's entirely up to yourself. But we will proceed with the first item on our agenda, which is the notice and summons of the meeting, and we will move directly then to members' attendance and apologies. So I'll ask the head of planning if she can take us through that.
Chair. Good afternoon, members. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Planning Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Strabane, on Wednesday, the 8th of October at 2 p.m. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Online, Suzanne.
Thank you. Alderman Neri McMorris. Here. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
Here.
Councillor John Boyle. Councillor Caroline Devine.
Apologies.
Councillor Sean Fleming. Okay, we'll come back. Councillor Paul Gallagher is here. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Apologies.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Sure.
Okay. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Sure.
Okay. Councillor Patricia Logue.
Sure.
Okay. Councillor Patrick Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Martin Riley.
Online.
Thank you. And Councillor Stephen Barr. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Members, we'll move on to the next item, which of course is as normal protocol to read out the broadcast statement. So I'd like to remind everyone present at this meeting in the chamber or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purposes of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have your microphones and cameras on whilst speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility should you wish to highlight a request to speak. And of course, a copy of the Council's privacy notice may be found on the Council website at derrystrabane.com. Okay, members, on to item number 5, which is chairperson's business. I don't have any chairperson's business of my own, but as you'll all appreciate, there will be a significant amount of chairperson's business from the head of planning, who will now take us through various bits and pieces of information, including late items and further updates in relation to some of the applications that are in front of us here today. So Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Members, firstly, just to I think that was presented to Governance Strategic Planning. That's happening on the 27th of October at 10 a.m. in the Burnavon in Cookstown. And if you want to attend, if you want to let me know before or in the next few days, that would be appreciated. The LDP steering group is scheduled to take place on the 23rd of October at 10 a.m. in the Whittaker Suite. The planning department are also facilitating 2 community engagement events on the supplementary planning guidance. The first one is scheduled for the 16th of October from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Whittaker Suite, and the second one is the 23rd of October from 2 to 4 p.m. in the Brook Park Leisure Centre. We will be putting information on the website tomorrow and notifying those parties that are those stakeholders that have already contacted us who wish to come along and discuss the supplementary planning guidance. So moving on to late information, members, there's been a number of items of late information over the last few days and today. Firstly, in relation to item 5 and 6, which is the Strand Road, the hotel. You will have received a copy of correspondence from Declan O'Donovan, an objection. on the 3rd of October with a range of issues that require to be considered and addressed. You will also have received a correspondence from NI Water with the updated position on the water proposals. Today we have received 3 emails of support from the agent. The first from the staff at the Dewey office, the second one from Gordon's Chemist, and the third one from MJ's Menswear. Those were all received this morning. And then quite recently, just around 12 o'clock, we've received a further email from the agent, Mr. Kennedy, and a set of amended plans setting out to address the objectors' concerns. On the basis of the lead information and specifically the amended plans, members, I've discussed with the chair, we would be recommending that we have to defer that to re-neighbour notify the objector for the consideration of the amended plans and the issues that have been put forward by the objector. And the second case that we have received lead information on is in relation to item 7, which is the HMO, LA11 2024-0941. We have received correspondence regarding speaking rights. The position in terms of speaking rights is set out in our protocol, members, which is on the website. Monday 12 noon is the cutoff for requested speaking rights. Applications that are being presented to the planning committee and the reports are uploaded a week in advance. Also, notification is on council's website. So the position is that we would proceed to hear that today, but the chair can maybe put that to you. So that's a summary of the information, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Does anybody have any particular queries in relation to those late items and that information that you've just received from the head of planning? So obviously you're all content that we proceed as suggested. So that means then that the applications in relation to the hotel site on the Strand Road, so Sackville Street, will be deferred for that information to be considered by the planning team members, and then we will proceed with the rest of the agenda. Okay, so you're all content. Okay, thank you. Everybody online is content as well. Thanks. Okay, moving along, item number 6, which is matters arising from
Chair, sorry to interrupt, Councillor
Go
Riley.
ahead, Councillor Riley. Yeah.
I think on the agenda you missed item 3, which is the declaration of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. You're quite correct. I did. So now you've reminded me, and asked members if there are any declarations of interest in relation to the business of today's meeting. And Councillor Riley, I suspect that you may well have, since you were coming in on that particular item. So my apologies to all of you. Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, item 7, subsection 4, application LA11 2025 0401/S54. Just to declare, I've been in contact with the applicant in relation to that application prior to being a member of the committee, and the related other issues around car roundabout. So at the appropriate time, Chair, can I be put into the online holding room until the decision is taken and then be brought back to the committee for the other items? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley, and I'm sure the IT team will be made aware of which application it is that we'll be putting you into the holding room in the lobby. So thanks for that declaration. Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair. It's just the usual declaration of interest. I've been on the Locks Agency Board and it applies to applications 2, 3, 9 and 10.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Montgomery. Anybody else?
Chair, just in relation to items, and I'm conscious both of them have been recommended and deferred at this point, but just to put it on the record that Foyle Consultant Engineering were named in the late items, and there's a declaration that I would have, as would you, in relation to that organisation. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jackson. And yes, you and I are in the same position, obviously, as commissioners of the Port and Harbour, and Foyle Engineering are a subsidiary of the Port and Harbour, albeit Councillor Jackson and I have no pecuniary interest in that application. But as you say, quite rightly point out, Councillor Jackson, it's been withdrawn today for deferral anyway. Okay, so we will move then, of course, to matters arising from the open minutes of the Planning Committee held on Wednesday, the 3rd of September 2025. Are there any matters arising from that, members? None. Okay. Just bear with me a wee second, members. Unusual as it may well be to allow people in the public gallery, but in the interest of fairness and of course being reasonable, Mr. Kennedy, you've got your hand up and I think you probably want to address us. So will you require a microphone? I won't be able to hear you up this end, so could you, if you don't mind, please? Thank you. Okay, Matt, as I said, this is unusual for us to do this, but to be fair and to be reasonable, I think we should probably hear what you've got to say because you've come this distance. I'm not even sure what application it is you've come for. So, okay.
Chair, I have a matter arising and I suspect it may be the same issue that Matt is on the speaker.
That's fair enough, Councillor Jackson, but I'm going to do one thing at a time, if that's okay with you. I'm going to afford the opportunity of the city solicitor to engage with Matt first. Take it from there. Okay, members, we're just going to take a 5-minute recess, if that's all right. Okay, thank you. I'm just in relation to that, obviously, apologies for the delay, but I think it was important to afford the head of planning and the city solicitor the opportunity to speak to the agent on, I don't even know which one it was, so go ahead.
No, thank you, Chair, and just members, we have had the opportunity of discussing the matter with the agent and the applicant solicitor. Obviously, there's disappointment that the matter can't be today. I think there's an understanding as to the position that the council finds itself in by way of assurance to the agent and to the applicant and his representative. Officers will be doing everything in their power to ensure that that matter comes back before the committee next month at the next available planning committee meeting. Thank you.
And that's in relation to numbers 5 and 6, which we've already agreed we would defer. So again, thanks for those who attended, and we'll move on. So we'll get back to matters arising. Councillor Jackson, I believe you have a matter you would wish to bring up. Go ahead.
Oh, my apologies, Chair. In relation to decisions taken at last month's planning committee, I just want to refer to LA11/2022 03770 and LA11/2022 0683/0. Both of those decisions were presented to the planning committee last month. Both of them were recommended for refusal. The committee decided to overturn those on the basis that it met the exception test under HOU 1. And there has, I think we've all received correspondence in relation to that decision, that overturn, and there is queries around the necessity to refer those applications to DFA. They call them on. Given that they're not contrary to the local development plan, the development plan and the decisions that were taken were in line with the development plan and the exception test that was pertained within the policy, within HOU 1. So I just wanted to query that and then query whether has both of those applications been called on or referred to DFA at this stage, and can there be an explanation around why if it's still if we still need to do it, because I certainly made the proposal and I made it on the basis that it is in line with our new local development plan. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, city solicitor.
Yeah. Can
Go ahead.
confirm that they haven't been referred up as yet. The correspondence that's been received from TLT solicitors and from Mr. Kennedy is still being considered in terms of a formal response to that. Given that it is correspondence from solicitors, I'm happy to discuss that in confidential business whenever we get to that stage.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other matters arising, members? Online. Okay. Can we also note that Councillor Fleming has joined us online? So, okay, we'll move along, members, to the planning applications for decision, and I'll give you the running order in light of various conversations that were had about those applications that we've deferred. So the running order for today is items 1, 2, 3, 9, 4, 7, 8, and 10. Everybody get that? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we will go to the first application, which is LA 11/2022 0830. And that's application number 1 in our packs. Rosie's going to take us through that. So Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 1 is LA 11/2022 08380 outline. This is a proposal for a site for a dwelling and a garage at Evish Lane. approximately 125 metres east of number 42 Kilnappy Road, Eglinton, and the recommendation is to refuse. Members, this application was before you back in September, and we deferred to for officers to include more photographs in the planning report. So this is a site location map showing the site outlined in red. It's part of an agricultural field with access proposed onto Avish Lane. And the site is located in the green belt. This is a view into the site from Avish Lane. At present, there's high hedges to each side of that lane. This is a view towards the site from Kilnappy Road. Members, the plan and policy framework is set out in detail in your the report packs, and the consultation responses are detailed, and I'll come back to the response from DAERA in the presentation. And just to note that there have been no third-party representations received. So the application is for a house on a farm. And the background to this application is that the applicant has applied for a farm dwelling on his lands at Avish Lane, but his principal farm holding is in Scarva, which is about 73 miles away. And Avish Lane, we're informed, forms part of the applicant's out farm. So to establish whether the dwelling will be acceptable on the farm under policy HOU 18, we have the following has to be demonstrated. So criterion 1 requires that the farm business is active and has been established for at least 6 years prior to the date of the planning application. So in this case, we've been provided with a farm business ID number, and DAERA confirmed that it has been in existence for more than 6 years, and that payments, single farm payments have been received. However, DAERA go on to advise that the site is located on lands that are farmed by another farm business. So where this is the case, it's set out in the LDP that we require further information, such as accounts or certification to demonstrate that the lands in question have formed part of the applicant's farm holding for a 6-year period. If another farm business is farming the land, we need details of whether there's a conacre or letting agreement, and the confirmation from that farmer, the farmer that's renting the land, about what farming activity is he's undertaken and what's ongoing on the lands. So we haven't been presented with that application, and we cannot therefore conclude that that active farming has been taking place on these lands for the last 6 years. So the first criterion of HOU 18 is not met. The second criterion, then, we're satisfied that there's been no other development opportunities sold off the farm holding in the last 10 years. And then the third criteria requires that the new farm building should be sited to cluster with an established group of buildings on the farm. So in this case, the principal farm buildings are at Scarva, and at Avish Lane, there aren't any other buildings on that part of the farm. So these lands at Avish Lane are located in the green belt, and it's clear under policy HOU 18 that a stricter policy test now applies, and this requires or states, that where there are no buildings on the farm and you're located in the green belt, that planning permission will not be granted. So criterion 3 then is not met. So the proposal overall fails to comply with policy HOU 18. So the following are detailed, are considered in more detail in the planning report in respect of integration and design, amenity and human health, access, flood risk, natural heritage, the requirement to integrate renewable and low carbon technologies, and in respect of foul sewage disposal. And we're content that these matters could be satisfactorily addressed by appropriate conditions. However, because the proposal fails policy HOU 18, this carries determining weight, and refusal is recommended, members, for the reasons set out in your planning reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Okay, members, there's, as far as I'm aware, certainly the information I have in front of me, there's nobody down question to speak in relation to this application. So I'll open it straight up to the floor if anybody has any questions for Rosie or anybody else in the planning team. So again, over to yourselves. Go ahead, councillor Jackson.
Chair, don't have a question,
Go ahead.
but just in relation to comment, because this application was brought in front of the committee last month, and I felt for one that I wasn't in a position to take a decision because of the lack of photographs and I appreciate the effort that went on to provide that detail. And whilst the photographs helped, they haven't helped me in terms of seeing how it hasn't helped in relation to providing a reason to overturn. So based on the information that's provided, the additional photographs that were submitted as part of this application, I feel personally that we have no choice but to accept the officer's recommendation to refuse. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, councillor Jackson. So you're proposing that the application be refused as per the officer recommendation. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Leonard. Okay. Anybody, anything else that they wish to add before we move to the vote on this? Okay, I'll ask Suzanne to take us through the vote.
Okay, members, this is to accept the officer recommendation for LA 11 2022 08380. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll abstain on this one, Suzanne.
Okay, Alderman Neri McMorris. For. Alderman Janice Montgomery. For. Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Caroline Devine is not here. Councillor Sean Fleming. Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Or
Councillor Conor Heaney. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Ta.
Councillor Patricia Logue. For. Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Ta.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Or
And Councillor Sino Barr.
For.
Yes.
Yep, that's unanimous, members. Thank you very much. Okay, moving along swiftly. Next application is application number 2 in our list, and that's LA 11 2024 0627. Again, an outline, and I think that is coming back from last month as well. So, Laura, I believe, is going to take us through that. So, Laura, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, members. Application LA 11 2024 06270. This is an outline application for an infill dwelling, lands adjacent and to the southeast of 24A Curryfree Road. The recommendation is to refuse. Yes, this application was previously presented to members at the June Planning Committee with a recommendation to refuse. Members voted to defer that application to seek further information in relation to personal circumstances, which were detailed by the planning agent during that planning application being heard. So that's considered in the planning report, and I'll go through it here now in the presentation as well. Members will be familiar with this site. It's an agricultural land comprising, there you can see on the aerial photo, the majority of a small field and part of the adjoining field to the southeast. It's located on the southeastern side of the laneway, which serves 3 other dwellings there at number 24A, 24B and 24C Curryfree Road. And the application site is located adjacent to number 24A. The site's located within the rural area and is approximately 2.5 kilometres southeast of New Buildings and 4 kilometres southwest of Ardmore. So this is just some images again of the application site, looking at it there from the laneway. And just another image here of the application site. This is the policy context under which this application was assessed. And it's detailed further in the planning report. In terms of consultation responses, there's been a number of consultees. There's been no objections from consultees to the proposal, and standard advice and conditions have been proposed. And we haven't received any representations regarding this plan application. So when the application was previously presented to members, it had been assessed under the plan and policy statements previously and the LDP draft plan strategy. And obviously since then, the LDP has been adopted. So this application is now assessed only under the policies which are set out in the LDP plan strategy. And therefore, in terms of this application, policy HOU 23 is applicable. So this policy permits the development of a small and filler gap site sufficient to accommodate a maximum of one house within an otherwise substantially and continuously built up frontage, which the policy defines as a line of 5 or more dwellings in a row along the road frontage. So we can see here that there are only 2 dwellings on this side of the lane, and therefore there's no substantial and continuously built up frontage. There's not 5 dwellings as required by the policy. The site itself cannot be considered to be a small gap. There's no development immediately south of the application site. It's the remainder of the agricultural field. This provides a further gap and a visual break between the site and the dwelling at number 24C Curryfree Road. So therefore it's concluded that more than one dwelling could be located between number 24A and 24C. And then overall the proposal is considered contrary to that policy HOU 23. So this policy also states that planning permission will be refused where for a building which creates or adds to urban development. And this is also considered in policy CY2. A dwelling on the application site would be visually linked and would form a ribbon with the dwellings at 24A and 24C, and therefore would result in a suburban style build-up of development, which is contrary to both policies HOU 23 and CY2. So as mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the agent had stated that there were personal circumstances which should be considered in relation to this planning application. So information has been submitted by the agent in regard to that. So this policy grants planning permission for a dwelling in the countryside for the long-term needs of the applicant where there are compelling and site-specific reasons related to that applicant's personal or domestic circumstances. And it requires that you provide satisfactory evidence that a new dwelling is a necessary response to those circumstances and that genuine hardship would be caused if planning permission was refused. And it also requires that you demonstrate there are no alternative solutions to meet those particular circumstances. And the policy goes on to outline the type of information that's expected to be received, which includes medical evidence, for example, detailing the level of care required in relation to any condition. So in terms of that, we did receive, as I said, some information from the agent. So they have detailed that they have an adult son that lives with them and requires some support. And would benefit from a sister living next door to provide support alongside her parents. Supporting medical evidence, though, has not been received in relation to the care for the applicant's son, why it would need to be provided at that location, or what alternatives have been considered, or how genuine hardship would be caused. If permission was refused. This was requested between the last 2 planning committees on a number of occasions, but to date we haven't received anything. And then just in terms of the other part of this, in terms of the need for the dwelling, the applicant advised that the dwelling is for their daughter, who is to provide some care for the son, but also that she currently lives in Belfast and is struggling with childcare costs. But officers don't consider that, that's compelling site-specific reasons to permit a dwelling. And furthermore, it hasn't been demonstrated why care can only be provided at this location, or what alternatives have been considered, or how genuine hardship will be caused. So therefore, overall, it's considered that the proposal is contrary to policy HOU 24 for the reasons that are set out in the planning report in detail and in the slide here in front of you. just to go on then, the proposal then is considered under policy ODC 1, and it doesn't satisfy clearly the requirements of either policy HOU 23 or HOU 24. No overriding reasons have been permitted to demonstrate why it's essential at this rural location and couldn't be located in a settlement. So the proposal is considered contrary to that policy also. Whilst it's not acceptable in principle, the proposal is assessed under the other policy considerations as set out in the LDP plan strategy, including integration, design, amenity, human health, transport and movement, flood risk, the natural environment, and renewable and low carbon energy. Officers are content that the proposal complies with the policy requirements set out under those different assessments, and that if required, conditions can be provided from in terms of planning or from any of the consultees. So just to summarise, the proposal is not the development of a small unfull or gap site sufficient only to accommodate one house within a substantially and continuously built up frontage. It would create a ribbon of development along the existing laneway, resulting in a suburban style build-up development. It hasn't been demonstrated that there are compelling or site-specific reasons for the proposed dwelling. And the proposal is contrary to policy ODC 1, as no reasons have been presented to demonstrate why it's essential in this rural location. And therefore refusal is recommended for the reasons set out in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And again, members, there's no one's requested to speak to the committee in relation to this. So I'll open it up to the floor again if anybody has any questions that they want to put to Laura or indeed the rest of the officer team. Councillor Kerrigan online.
Chair, you were all right. That was sort of in regards to the previous application, but it's all right. I suppose in regards to what Laura stated, the detail of medical information, in my view, hasn't come in. But I say that's not a question, more a comment. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, and my apologies, Alderman Kerrigan. I didn't see the previous request to speak in that last one, but I think you're content enough anyway. Yeah, my apologies as well, members, in relation to that, because I said it was last month, it was June, and we had requested that information. As Laura's pointed out, that information hasn't been forthcoming. Anybody get any other questions? Laura, the officer team. Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
Oh, just to highlight the fact that I had quite a few questions, but the people that could answer them aren't here, and that's the difficulty in relation to this. Reading the report, I felt that we would have benefited from the opportunity to question the applicant or find out more information in relation to the personal circumstances. Would have felt that would have been extremely helpful, but it's disappointing that there's nobody here to answer those.
Okay, and if that had been the case, we would have gone into confidential to discuss that with them, but they're not here, so it is what it is, as you say, Councillor Jackson. So members, any other comments or questions in relation to this one? If not, there's a recommendation in front of us here. That recommendation clearly is to refuse. So I'll put it open to the floor, members. I'll take any proposals that you might have. Councillor Gallagher.
Chair, just happy to propose the recommendations.
So the recommendations proposed by Councillor Gallagher. Is there a seconder for that recommendation?
We just seconded online, Chair. Councillor Riley.
Councillor Riley, thank you. We had a couple more in here as well, but thank you, Councillor Riley. So that's proposed and seconded by Councillor Gallagher and Councillor Riley. Members, we'll put it straight to the vote.
Members, this is to accept the officer recommendation for LA11 2024-0627. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Neri McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Down.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Tap.
Councillor Patricia Logue. For. Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Tap.
Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Sina Barr.
For.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, members, and that's unanimous again. Okay, so moving along, item number 3 on our list, and that's LA 11 2022 0764 full application F. And just to point out that there are some speakers that are available. I think it might be if they've turned up to just take any questions that you might have, but we'll get to that in due course. But in the meantime, we'll take the presentation from James. So James, whenever you're ready.
Sorry, members, seems to be a bit of a delay in this one. Afternoon, members. Item 3, LA 11 2022 0764 F, proposed farm and equestrian suppliers in a new purpose-built unit on the site adjacent to the applicant's existing store, and that's the former Robert Smith & Co building at 7276 Glensheen Road at Dromahoe. And that's the application site up there on the right, where you can kind of see there's still a frame of the metal building, which was previously a pharmaceutical and hasn't been used now in some amount of time, but the building still remains on site. To put it into context with the existing chamber site, you can see that's just sitting in the middle of the red lines. And the site is showing that the main access will be taken through the beaches. The redevelopment of the site will occur on essentially on the same footprint and area as the existing photo frame building. What it is there to do is to provide a better standard of suppliers, and there'll be a redevelopment of the site beside to then move the suppliers into the area here we can see in green. The area in yellow would be the retail floor area where you can buy very specialist farming equipment and supplies. The purple area to the left will be the office administration use, and there's a small cafe which will be just a small single-story element to the bottom right, which is on the blue land. The access point to the site will be that bottom picture there where you can see it's fenced off, and that would have been part of the existing access to the original building a long time ago. That access goes to the beaches and then connects to the top picture, which is the main Glensheen Road. And as part of the development, there'll be significant junction improvements to make it safer, and this has been agreed with roads, where you would have, if you can see, the existing white triangle just on the right hand side of the top picture. That'll become a double junction, so you'll have a dedicated turnout left lane. There'll be a pedestrian crossing point and a pedestrian island in the middle as well to provide a lot more of a safer crossing point for people just using the footpath. In terms of the policy framework, it's been assessed against the LDP and the above policies, which are all contained in your larger committee report. Representations on the application, we received 24 objections, and they've been discussed in more detail the committee report, but can run generally through them there. So you have traffic and access, all the access, traffic, parking and arrangements, etc., have all been agreed with DFI Roads, who are prepared to adopt them under private streets determination. There was an objection over the increase in vermin in the area. We've got confirmation from the applicant that that will be managed if it becomes a problem, as we do recognise with animal feed there is a potential for something there. So they have already submitted a management plan to deal with that. The increase in noise levels, that's been assessed by Environmental Health Service, who are content with the proposal. Overlooking from the development, height of the development, creating a loss of light, we've assessed that as part of the planning application itself, and we're content that the building itself well, it won't overlook us. There'll be no windows overlooking any development. The height at 9 meters would be fairly comparative with what's there, and the separation between that and the existing buildings then will not cause any significant detrimental loss of light. The changing character from residential in nature to industrial retail, the development itself always was a pharmaceutical plant, so there wasn't a residential element to it, so we don't consider that there is any change in character in the area, and it basically ties in and follows on from its previous use. The storage of gas cylinders, high-risk new residential properties, that's covered by separate legislation, which if you see in many kind of petrol stations, things that got gas canisters are there for sale or for use, and there's certain management around that, so we're content that that's acceptable. Consultees have cleared the application. I say there's more detail within the planning committee report. And essentially, we've considered all material considerations, relevant planning policies within the plan, relevant plan history, consultation represents, etc. And we recommend approval subject to conditions contained within the plan report. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So members, as I said, present, I think they're in the gallery. Yeah. We have David Dalzell, Rachel Chambers, Gordon Chambers, and Matt Rideout, I believe. And if you would like to come up the side here, whomsoever's going to address the committee, we'll give you a minute to find your seat. You're very welcome into the chamber now. Mr. Dalzell, I think you're going to address the committee. So standard procedures, 5 minutes for you to do so, and then we take questions after that. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, members. I don't intend to take the 5 minutes, but we are very grateful for the opportunity to be here today and to speak to you. I'm David Dalzell, landscape architect, planning consultant, and I'm the agent for the application. And I'm accompanied today by, on my left, Matt Rideout, who is our roads consultant, who can answer if you have any questions on traffic or roads matters. I have Rachel Chambers, who is the manager of Chambers Farm and Equestrian Store, and Gordon Chambers, who is the managing director of the parent company, W&J Chambers. And really, Chair, just want to support the planning officer's recommendation to approve. Don't intend to add to James's very thorough resume there of the application, but as I say, we're here to answer any questions that might arise. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, members, so there's the offer on the floor for you. Anybody got any questions, Councillor Jackson?
Thanks. And I appreciate that this application's been in the system for quite some time. I think there was a comment at the start that there's been a slight delay. There's a substantial delay, but I appreciate that might be largely down to the complexities and particularly the intricacies of the road layout and arranging the access and egress. One of the things that jumped out at me, I have no queries in relation to the road layout. I think DFI, if they're the road experts, and their response and the response from James in terms of the report spells that out clearly. One of the things that jumped out at me was in relation to the management of any potential issues that arose from Bearman. Is there? I just wouldn't mind a wee bit more information in relation to that. And Rachel, you may be the best person to answer that. Just if we could elaborate a wee bit more on that, or what mitigations are put on in the first instance, if any.
Yes.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, so I manage our store. I'm proud to say I'm the 4th generation Chambers family. I joined about 10 years ago now. I am HACCP qualified. We're audited under UFIS guidelines as well every year. That is a very thorough examination of our setup, what we do, what we offer. The auditor goes into a lot of detail. She checks everything from vermin control, our storage operations, everything is critically analysed. So on vermin, we currently employ an outside company, but they come in every 6 to 8 weeks. They monitor the situation. If there is any rodent activity, it's dealt with. And they do follow-ups within a week. It's kept on top of. It's not an issue. Never really has been an issue. It's dealt with there and then, and we're happy to say that we've very little trouble, thankfully, in that area.
Okay, you want to come back on?
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Anybody else got any questions? Councillor Gallagher?
Just a simple one. No issue with the conditions, quite a number of conditions, but no problem with the conditions.
No, like we're really happy to get this across the line. I'm really excited to see what this brings for the local community. I want to see it completed for the local community. I want to see it move forward, and I think we'll do everything we can to help that happen.
Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for letting me in. From your point of view, that you're excited that it's in the system and it looks as if it potentially is going over the line. And just on behalf of the residents that I'd be speaking to, you know, there is mixed views on it regarding the traffic. As you know, it's a bottleneck to try and get onto the main Glenshane Road as it is at the moment. So there is major concerns regarding the access onto the Glenshane Road, and I'm happy that, you know, that there is things in place in order to help and improve that. But I just feel as if, like, you know, it's something that maybe you should keep under consideration. But in regards to, you know, the overall, it would be lovely to see that derelict bit of land back into use that will raise the area. Do you know what I mean? And I just want to say, I know you are responsible employers. Do you know what I mean? So you will kind of monitor the rodent system and whatever. It'll be in your, you know, gift in order to be able to make sure that, you know, the resident isn't impacted by increased whatever. But look, I'm happy that DFI have addressed all the issues in regarding traffic, but I just know that that's a concern with the local residents. So I just thought I would have to mention it. But you know, it is exciting that we're going to get that derelict land put back into use. And yeah, I wish you well with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And I didn't hear a question there, but if you want to respond, you can certainly do so.
I suppose what I would like to say is that I've lived in Drumahoe all my life, fully understand the road troubles that everyone faces on a daily basis. But I really hope that we can help that in some way, and hopefully with the longer term plans of potentially bypassing Drumahoe will definitely help matters. But in the meantime, from a local business point of view, we're going to do everything we can to try and help the situation in Drumahoe.
Rachel, anybody else got anything? Councillor Logue, yeah.
Just to add to that, I do think like this is good news on two fronts, the development of the land, and also I think these enhanced roadworks wouldn't be done if this development wasn't going to be approved. And I think it will enhance the users of the roads, the residents and all. I mean, you are going out on a busy road, but the measures that are going to be put in place, I think, will benefit the residents of Drumahoe too as well. And given that there's going to be an island so that they can cross too, is certainly welcome. But I'm more welcomed about the business expanding and the use of that land being developed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Anything you want to add to that, or are you happy enough? Yeah. Okay, anybody else? Nobody online either. Okay, you can turn your microphone off and take a seat. You're welcome to just sit where you are for now. We'll open it up now to members if they wish to ask the officer team any questions they might have for James, or no questions for James, and nobody online there either. Okay, thank you, James, for your presentation as well. All right, members. Well, the recommendations there in front of you. It's a recommendation for an approval, and I'm going to put it out to the floor here to see if we've got any proposers and seconders, etc. So, Councillor Jackson.
Happy to propose, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Alderman McMorris, you're seconding, yeah?
Happy to second.
Thank you. Okay, we will put that to the vote, the formality of that. So, Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Members, this is the vote proposal to accept the officer recommendation for LA 11 2022 0764F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Neary McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Caroline Devine is not here. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tom.
Councillor Paul Gallagher. Councillor Christopher Jackson. Councillor Fergal Leonard. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Top.
Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Sinai Barr.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Once again, members, that's unanimous. So can I just thank the applicants and agent, etc., for coming along here today. And as you can see, everyone agrees with your very well expressed sentiments in relation to it. So all we can do is wish you all the best in the future moving forward, folks. And you're free to go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, members, moving along, as per the running order that we agreed to start. So the next item is item number 9. And that's LA 11 2024 0189. And again, that's a full application. And Malachy, I believe, is going to take us through that. So take it away whenever you're ready, Malachy.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 9 is LA 11 2024 0189. It's a full application for retention of single-story garden room and replacement of front porch at 48 Burhan Road. The recommendation is to approve. This application is before members today as the threshold for a number of objections has been reached. The application site, as outlined in red, is located on the Burhan Road opposite Everglades Hotel. It's within an existing residential area. The site itself is a single-story detached property. Historically, it was associated with the Burhan House, and it's the original gatehouse. However, it has no historic listings or any statutory listings in accordance with legislation. You'll also see the block plan. The original house is outlined in green in the block plan, and the proposed extensions. The guard room is the blue square area on the side gable end of the property. And a small orange area is the connecting porch between the host property and the proposed extension. And just to give you an idea of the site and its context, the attached photographs are taken from the Hen Road. You will notice the hipped roof original property. There was a later addition at the rear. There's a lean-to single-story extension, maybe attached in the 80s or 90s. And you can see this application is for retention. So you will see the porch and the flat roof garden room extension to the side of the property within the curtilage of the application site. And you'll see the application site rises to the rear. It's part of the application site on the second photograph is the green area rises to the rear also.
So the images before you and also from their pack will show you the existing floor plans and elevations. Sorry, not existing, the prior one, prior to the extension being built. That's the prior layout. And here's the existing layout now with the proposed extension and the kind of mustard color there. And you'll see the details of the extension and in terms of the location of the fenestration, etc., and the context of the site. So the policy context is set out within the case officer report and includes the relevant policies within the LDP plan strategy. And the relevant chapters include general development principles, housing and settlements, and placemaking. There were 6 objections presented by Asunia Architects Limited, writing on behalf of 8 separate residential properties and 7 addresses. They raise a number of issues which are considered in detail in the report. And in summaries, these relate to the proposed design, materials and layout of the extension, the use of the extension, the removal of landscaping, the adequacy of the remaining amenity space, accuracy of the submission, and the breaching of planning controls. There were no consultations required for this application given the nature, scale and location of the proposed development. So the main assessment within the local development plan strategy is set out within HOW 10, which is a policy dealing with residential extensions. There are essentially 4 tests set out within this policy. The first test deals with scale, massing, design and materials. Officers have considered this in a report and are of opinion that the overall proposed development is subordinate to the main dwelling, which is considered a modest dwelling, and the extension is also considered modest. The finishes development are a western cedar timber cladding, and this during the process of the application, we've been engaging with the applicant's architect, and it was agreed that if they were painted, that this would help the proposed extension integrate with the host property. So you'll notice from the photographs it have been painted white and it's shown in the plans. So officers consider that this enables and helps with the integration of the proposed materials. The windows and doors are aluminium double glazed, which are pretty standard in an urban context. And the roof is insulated profile cladding. Again, pretty standard finishes within an urban context. And the site is within the development limits of Derry. There is noted that there's various different types of materials, etc., used in the surrounding area in terms of residential finishes. So all in all, officers do not think that the proposal will detract from the appearance or character of the surrounding area. And in consideration of this policy criterion, believe that the overall scale, massing and design and external materials of extension are acceptable. Officers have also considered the impact on privacy, which is the next criterion within HOW 10. The closest neighbours are to the north with a separation distance of approximately 24 metres. The properties in Hillview Avenue are sitting at least 3 or 4 metres higher than the application site. There are no windows that will overlook or impact on anybody's amenity. The windows that are on the proposed extension are essentially looking into the access road at Burhan Road and Hazelwood Avenue. Opposite the site is a hotel use, and given the road and the separation distance, there's no conceivable impact on this use. While there have been objections in relation to this matter, officers consider the design and scale and setting of extension are such that there will be no adverse impact on residential amenity. It's noted that there have been trees and scrub vegetation have been removed from the embankment to the rear site, which forms part of the residential curtilage. Officers do not consider that they would have contributed significantly to the local environmental quality. The removal of the vegetation was raised as concerned. However, it wasn't removed to facilitate this proposed development and was rather a tidying up of the site by the applicant. And it's also considered that they do not contribute significantly to the local environmental quality, nor were of such quality to be considered for protection under tree preservation order. Therefore, this part of a criterion of how 10 has been met. The remaining criterion, the fourth criterion, relates to impact on amenity space within the curtilage of property. So essentially, we've assessed whether the extension would result in an inadequacy of amenity space. Officers have looked at the application site. The site itself is large. There will be adequate space surrounding the dwelling for the provision of parking and other activities associated with residential amenities, such as storage of bins, etc. And the access will remain unaltered. Therefore, on balance, that there's no issues in relation to the remaining amenity space. Officers have also detailed in the report, other planning matters which are raised through Chapter 7, which is General Development Policies, and Chapter 26, which deals with design. So we've considered all impacts, including impacts on amenity, built heritage, natural heritage, and impact on transport matters, as well as the other matters outlined in GD Pol 1 and GD Pol 2. And having assessed and considered each of the relevant criterion, has concluded that in addition to meeting the requirements as set out in Howe 10, the proposed development will not result in any demonstrable harm and is in compliance with the policy context set out in the LDP plan strategy. So on balance, the proposal meets the requirements of Howe 10, PS, and the other relevant planning policy context as set out in the report. All our relevant material considerations, including third-party comments, have been fully considered and have been taken into account in arriving at a recommendation to approve. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Malachy. Members, we do have the applicant here in person, Mr. Liam Cummings. I'm assuming, since you're the only person in the gallery, sir, that is you. So you're welcome to come forward here if you wish to address the committee. So, okay, well, I'm going to put it out there anyway. If anybody does have any questions, then we'll invite you forward to answer them. So, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cummings, who has taken the time to come here as well, of course, and we thank him for that. Okay, folks, you'll be delighted to know that nobody's got any questions for you, Mr. Cummings, so sit tight where you are. Okay, members, does anybody have any questions for Malachy or any of the officer team in relation to this? No questions there. When I was reading through the report, actually, it bore out the proof that every day is a school day, because I had not realised this was actually the gate lodge of Brahan House until I read that report. So a wee bit of interesting history there for us all as well. Maybe some of you knew, but I certainly didn't. Okay, members, no questions for the officer team. There obviously is a recommendation in front of you, so that recommendation is for approval, and I'm going to open it up to the floor again for proposals, and I'll start with yourself, Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to go along with the recommendation of the officers for approval, so I'm happy to propose that.
A seconder for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Logue. Okay, so recommendation to approve, proposed by Alderman McMorris, seconded by Councillor Logue, and again, we'll take ourselves through the formality of a vote on this, not pass it straight over to Suzanne.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the proposal to accept the recommendation for LA 11 2024 0189F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Thank you. Alderman Neri McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyd.
For.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tom.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Ta.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Ta.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Councillor
Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Sinoy Barr.
For.
That's unanimous.
Once again, that's unanimous, members. So again, Mr. Cummings, thanks for coming along. We likewise wish you well with whatever you're doing in the future as well. So thanks a million, and safe home. Thanks, thank you. Okay, members. Now we're moving on to item number 4 on our agenda. And before we do that, I will ask that the IT section place Councillor Riley in the lobby for this one. Okay, members, so that's number 4 on your list, and it's LA 11 2025 0401 S54. And again, James, I think, James, you're going to take us through this, isn't that right? Yeah. Okay, whenever you're ready, James.
Sorry, my apologies, councillors. The laptop's playing up today. Okay. Okay, thank you, Rosie. Right, item 4 is the variation of conditions 6, 7, 8, 13, 14, and removal of condition 9 of planning approval LA 11 2024 0091F, which is the land situated southeast of the 2 Cluny Road. That's essentially the H30 building site, which is ongoing demand as you cross over the new bridge and just on your left as you're heading out towards Eglinton. Slide. There it is. That's the application site at the minute. As I say, there's been a bit of progress made on the northern part of the site. The conditions that we're referring to today are specifically to do with the delivery and provision of works to improve both the Grancher roundabout and the car roundabout. And these have been agreed previously with the developer. So the next slide, sorry, is just a red line just showing the application site. There's a few approvals on the site there, so there's various trigger points, and what we want to do is regularize them so that they can bring forward some of the improvements. And the full description of all the changes are within the committee report, so this is just kind of a basic one just to kind of bring you up to speed with it. Condition 6, 7 and 8 are essentially to do with upgrading the agreed and approved drawings, because this will provide a different set of drawings on that, so they have to have their own drawing reference numbers and their own date published, and that just takes care of that element. Condition 9 can be removed as a detailed design has now been agreed as part of the application, therefore the condition isn't required. Condition 13 is the trigger point for the fully detailed drawings for core roundabout, and that's from the occupation of 48 dwellings to the submission now being lodged within 12 weeks of the date of this approval. And in discussions with the developer, I think they intend to have it done even before that time. Condition 14 is the delivery of the car roundabout, which happens at a later stage in the development. And the trigger points for the completion of occupation of 48 dwellings down to the occupation of 10 dwellings, and or prior to the 30th November 2026. Now, we've just asked a bit of indulgence from yourselves. We're just having a discussion with the developer and roads about the date and as to just the wording of it, but we didn't want to delay the applications coming to you because it allows them to get on and do the Grancher roundabout works, and that'll essentially just be around that date. Now, I can guarantee it won't be beyond that date. It's just something that's a suitable word and that we're content with, DFA Roads and the developers content with. And in terms of the consultees and representation, DFA Roads are obviously content with the proposals presented, and the application received no representations. The next is just a detailed plan of the works to Car Roundabout, which will be triggered by the development. So you're looking really at the provision of a different lane arrangement and the inclusion then of traffic lights as you move around. So it'll be fairly similar to Culmore roundabout as you come on the other side of the bridge. And again, that's the second roundabout developed. First one will be the Grancher roundabout, which is the next slide. And that has changed from the original application of being signalised to retaining the roundabout, but reconfiguring the lane access and providing access points as you can get across to for pedestrians. And essentially that we're content with the amending of the wording and the changes to conditions as our DFI. And members should note that this is a section 54 application to vary conditions. All other conditions relating to the full plan permission are still applicable and will be repeated in the decision notice. Should members approve this section 54 application, just refer to the committee report for the full wording of the decision notice. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Members, there's no speakers requested to come and talk to us in relation to this. Anybody got any questions for James? No questions, James. Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
No, not a question. I suppose I just welcome the application. I know the conditions in relation to this development, there was conditions agreed at committee for works both for Grancher and Call roundabouts because they're much needed. And the development itself is of high quality, providing much needed homes. But current arrangements aren't safe for a lot of people. I was concerned in relation to the drop-in of the signalised junction at the Grancher roundabout, simply because we know that we're picking up from current occupants of the homes that have been constructed that it is unsafe. The cross and a signalised junction would certainly improve safety for pedestrians. The pedestrian crossing addresses that, and if the pedestrian crossing and the design of the pedestrian crossing meets the standards from DFI, then who am I to argue? It is these upgrade works are a necessity and they've been delayed for far too long. So if this application helps speed them along and we're putting dates towards the delivery of them, then that can only be good news. So I'm delighted to propose that we accept the recommendations and hopefully move towards the delivery. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I couldn't agree more, 100%. Alderman McMorris.
That's just my sentiments exactly as well. You know, we've been contacted by residents in there and even children navigating to and from school. The buses are supposed to go onto the estate, but they're not. So pedestrianised crossing is essential. They have to navigate 4 lanes of traffic. So again, as Christopher said, these roundabouts have needed upgrades for a long, long time. And yeah, and we're delighted to see that this application is now going to go forward and that them works can commence on them roundabouts. So I'm happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Neri. Okay, and I think we're going to find that everybody agrees with both of you. But we'll find out for sure now because we're going to record the vote on it.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is a vote to accept the officer recommendation for LA 11 2025-0401, Section 54. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Neri McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tap.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Tap.
Councillor Fergal Leonard. Tap. Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy. Councillor Martin Riley, and Councillor Sino Bar.
For.
Okay.
And that's unanimous again, members. We're turning this into a record breaker today because it's unanimity right across the board so far. Right, let's hang on and let Councillor Riley join us again. You're very welcome back, Councillor Riley. You'll not be surprised to find that that has been approved, and it was approved unanimously as well, for your information. Okay, moving on now to item number 7 in the packs, which is LA 11 2024 0941F. And Laura, I believe, is going to take us through that. So whenever you're ready, Laura.
Thank you, Chair. Application LA 11 2024 0941F is a full application for the change of use from an existing 2-storey dwelling to a house in multiple occupation HMO located at 6 Lower Nassau Street, Derry. And the recommendation is to approve. So this is the application site. It's a 2-storey mid-terrace dwelling. It has a 2-storey rear return and a small rear yard with access onto a laneway. There's no encouraged parking and it's located within a residential street close to the central area of the city. So this is the policy context under which this application was assessed, which is considered in detail in the planning report. In terms of consultees, both DFI Roads and Environmental Health have been consulted and they have no objections to the proposal with standard advice and conditions proposed. We've had 14 objections to this plan application. These are considered in detail in the report and the issues, the main issues raised are summarised there in the slide in front of you. So in terms of assessment of this application, there are 3 main policies which are set out now in the LDP plan strategy. In terms of policy HOU4, so this application is for a change of use from a house and single family occupation to a HMO. It doesn't alter the status as a dwelling and it will retain the property for permanent occupation in accordance with policy HOU4. In terms of HOU13, this policy states that in the transition period until the adoption of the local policies plan, council will permit more than 30% of any houses within any street for a further HMO development. This street comprises of 55 dwellings. 8 properties have planning permission for a HMO, including 3 which have a licence. The percentage of current HMOs in the street is there for 14.5%. So the introduction then of this 9th HMO would equate to 16.3% of the terrace. This would not exceed the 30% threshold which is set out in policy HOU13. The HMO also accords with the licence requirements, including space standards, and then overall its proposals considered to comply with policy HOU13. The other policy which applies directly to HMOs is policy HOU14. So this states that planning permission will only be granted for a HMO where all 5 criteria are met. In terms of this application, criteria 1, 3, 4 and 5 are considered to be met as this is a 4-bedroom HMO with an acceptable internal layout which accesses onto the public street. Being at 16.3%, it's therefore considered that it won't detract from the established residential character of the area. And just to note, the criteria 2 is not applicable to this proposal. And then overall, the proposal is considered to comply with policy HOU14. Again, the proposal is also assessed under the all relevant policies as set out in the LDP plan strategy in terms of design, amenity, transport and movement, natural environment, flood risk, sewage services, and renewable and low carbon energy technology. Officers have considered all of those policies and criteria and do not have any concerns in relation to those policies and are content that the relevant policies have been complied with. So just to summarise in terms of this proposal, the proposal won't alter the status as a dwelling and retain the property for permanent occupation. It's the 9th HMO on the street, which would equate to 16.3% of the terrace. This doesn't exceed the 30% threshold, which is set out in policy HOU 13. It accords with the licensing requirements, including space standards. It's a 4-bedroom HMO, which doesn't exceed the 4-bedroom threshold. It's self-contained and is not wholly in the rear of any property without access to the public street. The proposal would take the number of HMOs in the street to 16.3%, and it's therefore considered that it doesn't detract from the established character of the area in accordance with policy HOU 13. And overall, the recommendation is to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, members. No speaker on this either. So has anybody got any questions for Laura or any of the officer team in relation to this one? Okay, no questions, Laura. Okay, members, in front of you, there's a recommendation there for item 7. The recommendation, as you can see there yourselves, is for an approval, as Laura stated. So I'll open up the floor for proposers and seconders if that's so. Councillor Lowe, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Laura, for your presentation there. And without wanting to prejudice our local development plan, I think we should be giving consideration to our plan and policies in the LDP and the other materials considerations that we can take account of. And council's position at the minute is not to go over 10%, and I think we should be given that determinant weight in this case. Therefore, I am proposing not to accept the council's or the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
So you're proposing that we don't accept the officer's recommendation? Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll be a seconder for that. Councillor Murphy, you're going to second that? Okay, members, bear with me. Okay, Councillor Logue, thank you for your proposal, and seconded by Councillor Leonard. So we will go through the vote, Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Members, this is a proposal not to accept the officer recommendation for LA11 2024-0941F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
I'll abstain, Suzanne.
Thank you. Alderman Neary McMorris.
I'm also going to abstain.
Thank you. Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
Against.
Councillor Caroline Devine is not here. Councillor Sean Fleming.
Tap.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
Abstain.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Abstain, I leave the room.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Tap.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Tap.
Councillor Martin Riley.
Or.
Councillor Sinai Barr.
For.
Okay, the proposal's carried, 7-4-1 against. Okay, members, we'll move along to the next one, which is number 8 on our list, which is LA11 2024-0430F. And again, Malachy is going to take us through that. So whenever you're ready, Malachy.
Thank you, Chair. Item 8 is L11 2025-0071 is a full application for the retention of a change of use from single family house to a house of multiple occupation. The location is 15 Fairman Place, and the recommendation before members is to refuse. The application site is outlined in red as a mid-terrace property located off Fairman Place, which is off Academy Road in the wider Rosemount area. The application site itself is a 2-story property with an attic conversion, and it's currently being used for a HMO as per the description. So the policy context set out in the case officer report includes the area plan, the RDS, and the local development plan strategy, including policies GDPOL 1, HOW 13 and 14 in relation to HMOs, TAM 9 in relation to parking and servicing, and there's some draft supplementary planning guidance also. We've consulted a number of bodies in relation to the application, including Environmental Health, DFA Roads, and their responses are recorded in the report. And you also know that there are 17 number of objections received. Again, these are summarised at this stage in terms of noise, parking, loss of community, impact on property values, contrary to the policies HOW 13 and 14, and issues in relation to access and some of the information online which was resolved. So I'm not going to go through those in detail. They're detailed in the report. So for assessment of a HMO and the local development plan, the relevant policies are set out at HOW 13 and 14. HOW 13 looks at the impact and character in terms of the percentage of acceptable changes of use to HMOs within any street. HOW 13 during the transitional period states that the council will not permit more than 30% of any houses within any street for further HMO development. It has been assessed through checking planning histories and site visits that there's 4 properties, numbers 2, 3, 5 and 16, that either have planning permission or a certificate of lawful development for HMO use. There's another property, number 6, which has planning permission but doesn't have a license. And there are 2 properties at number 9 and 11 have a license but no planning permission or certificate of lawful development. The policy asks that we take all of these into account. So therefore, as it stands, this equates to 26% of properties in Fairmont Place in use as HMOs. It's officer's assessment that the introduction of a further HMO in relation to the application property would bring it to 8 and equating to a 30.7, which is above the 30% threshold allowed within HOW 13. Therefore, officers are considered that the proposal is contrary to HOW 13. There's other aspects within HOW 13 that relate to licensing requirements and space standards, and officers are satisfied that there's nothing's been offended in respect to those aspects. HOW 14 then has additional criterion to take into account for the actual use as a HMO. In relation to this application, criterion 1, 3, 4 and 5 are relevant to the application site. Particularly number 1, the proposal is for a 6-bedroom HMO, which exceeds the 4-bedroom threshold. Therefore, the proposal does not satisfy this first criteria. We are satisfied with, in terms of criteria 3, that the internal layout, etc., has been considered as acceptable. It's factually correct that the HMO is not wholly a derivative property with access on the public street, so therefore the 4th criteria is met. And given that the proposal will take the number of HMOs above the 30% threshold, officers are of the opinion that the proposal would detract from the established residential character in terms of land use in the street, and therefore we believe that the proposal will not satisfy the 5th criteria. And therefore, in relation to criteria 1 and 5, the proposal is contrary to HOW 14. No exceptional local need case has been put forward by the applicant or its agent to demonstrate or justify the lowering of any of the above criterion as the policy allows. Therefore, based on the information we have, the proposal is contrary to HOW 14. In terms of transport and movement, it's noted that there's been intensification of the use of the property, and the proposal is for a 6-bedroom HMO, which is, I suppose, above the norm for number of bedrooms in the street, and therefore require 4 parking spaces at this location. Observations on site were that parking was not freely available within Fairmont Place. Therefore, officers have also put forward a reason for refusal in relation to parking, and that the proposal has not been satisfactorily demonstrated that it won't have an adverse impact, and therefore is contrary to TAM 9 and also policy within GD-Pol 1. We've also considered in the report other planning matters that, such as general planning criteria set out in GD-Pol 1, including design, amenity, human health and well-being, natural environment, impact on bulk heritage, flood risk, transport and movement, the use of the main sewage services, and renewable and low carbon energy technology. And given the scale, location, and the type of proposal, there's no issues in respect of any of these other matters other than those that have already covered in relation to transport and movement. So therefore, the refusal reasons are set out before you and also contained within the case officer's report. But on balance, and having considered all the policy requirements within the LDP plan strategy, and having taken into account the local planning history, and also taken into account observations in site and third-party comments, the officers recommend refusal of this proposed retention of this HMO. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, so recommendation there for a refusal. Anybody got any questions for Malachy before we move it forward? Nobody online either. Okay, members, so I'll take proposals from you.
Yeah,
Councillor Barr.
thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose to accept the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Lowe.
I'll second.
So thank you, Councillor Barr. Thank you, Councillor Logue. So proposed and seconded by the aforementioned councillors. So we again will put it to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is vote to accept the officer recommendation for LA 11 2024 0430F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Thank you. Alderman Neary McMorris.
For.
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For.
Councillor John Boyle.
For.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
Yeah.
Councillor Paul Gallagher.
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson.
Uh.
Councillor Fergal Leonard.
Tap.
Councillor Patricia Logue.
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy.
Tap.
Councillor Martin Riley.
For.
Councillor Sinai Barr.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Once again, unanimous, members. Thank you very much to proposer and seconder. Okay, members, the last of the day in terms of applications in front of us is number 10, which is LA 11 2025 0326F. And again, Malachy, you're going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Item 10, LA 11 2025 0326 is a full application. The proposal is for the installation of a car parking canopies with roof-mounted solar panels at 4 Acorn Farms in Collins Road, and the recommendation is to approve. The application site is outlined in red. It is part of the larger site known as Acorn Farm, which is a current council development taking place in St. Collins Road and within St. Collins Park for the development of a larger scheme. The application is before you because it's a council application. There are no objections to the proposal. And just to give you a view of the current under constructed site here off St. Collins Road. So you will be all familiar now with the emerging glass dome on St. Collins Road. So that the car parking will be to the forefront of that, basically where those workmen's vans are. So here's the proposed location at the front of the site as you enter on off St. Collins Road, outlined in red. And there's, to give you an idea, there's the elevations of the canopies. You'll sometimes see these in Europe or stuff in warmer countries. So they're basically they're coverings, canopies over existing car parking spaces. And again, just more elevations, and you'll see from one of the images there, they'll not really be apparent, with the existing walls and fences when constructed. So the policy context again is set out in the case officer report. For quite a small scheme, there's a lot of policy listed there, but in general, it's the general development policy, transport and movement, natural environment and historic environment. There was 2 consultees, DFA Roads, in relation to the parking and internal movement of the site. They have no objections. And Historic Environment Division, in terms of setting of nearby heritage features. And again, they have no objections to this operational development. So the principal development of the overall development was established through the original scheme for Acorn Farms, which is for an outdoor community growing scheme, which has domes, annex buildings, glasshouse, sheds, vegetable gardens, and this included a parking area which wasn't covered. So the proposed scheme is to introduce some additional operational development in the form of a canopy structure, which will overhang the originally approved parking base. And these canopies will have solar panels mounted on the roof. The main planning issues to be considered in relation to this scheme include visual impact on transport matters such as parking provision, and internal circulation, impacts on the setting of nearby historic features, and any possible impacts on natural heritage features. We've detailed in the report that each of these main planning issues have been considered against the relevant policies within the relevant chapters in the plan strategy. There was no requirement for any further reports, and the statutory consultees for transport and historic buildings have no issues. There's no third-party representations, and officers have no concerns and don't believe the proposed development will result in any demonstrable harm in relation to any of the relevant planning considerations. And it's considered to be fully compliant with the policy set out in the plan strategy, and recommend approval subject to the standard conditions as set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Malachy. Okay, members, any questions for Malachy? None? Okay, recommendation for approval in front of you, members. So again, over to yourselves. If we can have a proposer, Alderman McMorris, you're proposing it.
Thank you, and I'm happy and delighted to propose this. The environmental impact that this will have with the solar panels and everything is just a no-brainer. But yeah, I'm happy to propose.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. Seconder, Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, Chair, the only reason why this application is in front of us is because it's a council application, and the Acorn Farm it's a fantastic addition, and it's an exciting project the council's leading on, and this is a fantastic addition to that. Well, I suppose in relation to planning policy, there is absolutely no reason for us to refuse this. It meets all policies, no issue in that regard. And I suppose that the commentary in relation to the benefits of the application probably would be more suited to our council committee. But looking at the planning policy, it ticks all the boxes, and I've no issue seconding the proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Loeb, do you want to come in?
Just want to mention at this stage, look, I'm a participant of one of the schemes of the Acorn Farm, the Grow Your Own at Home. So just to have that noted. Okay. Don't ask me how I'm doing.
Well, fair play to you. We'll all agree with that.
Got a few things.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Lowe as well. And I agree, it's coming along very nicely, that, and it'll be a great addition for everybody in the city, let's face it, it really is. And, you know, to see it coming along so well and so quickly, and a site that was just lying derelict for so very long, you know, I mean, it's all positive, it's all good news. So there's a proposer and a seconder for that. Proposed by Alderman McMorris, seconded by Councillor Jackson. We'll put it to the vote.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is the vote to proposal to accept the officer recommendation for LA 11 2025-0326F. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
For Suzanne.
Alderman Mary McMorris.
Or
Alderman Janice Montgomery.
For
Councillor John Boyle.
Or
Councillor Sean Fleming. Councillor Paul Gallagher,
For.
Councillor Christopher Jackson, Councillor Fergal Leonard, Councillor Patricia Logue,
For.
Councillor Patrick Murphy,
Tap.
Councillor Martin Riley,
For.
Councillor Sina Bar.
For.
Thank you. Unanimous.
It's unanimous, members. Thank you very much. Thank you to proposer and seconder as well. Okay, members, that's the last of the open for decision list. Normally we would take a break now at this point, but I'm proposing we just carry on. If you're all happy enough to do that, is everybody content to do that? Yeah. Okay. So next item on the agenda is agenda item 8, which is the implementation of the independent plan review. And Suzanne's going to walk us through that. Obviously, that we had a workshop. Quite a significant number of people who are in this room right now were at. So Suzanne, whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Chair. So members, the paper outlines the details. Obviously at the workshop, we discussed the decision making recommendations. There were 7 of them in the review. They're attached in Appendix 11. And it was considered to progress some of them. The first stage of that in relation to the delegated scheme would require us to propose a revised delegated scheme on the basis of our discussions that day. So I've attached a proposed revised delegated scheme. I've mentioned in the paper that what has been added to Part B, the referral request from any elected member of council and the reasons for the request. The threshold of houses in point 6 has been reduced from 49 to 25. Applications for HMOs of any street where more than 10% of the dwelling units already operating as HMO development has been included. We've considered it necessary and appropriate then to, in discussions with the lead legal services officer, to remove the requirement to take applications, all applications that have a Section 76 agreement into committee, removing all refusal recommendations in accordance with the recommendations of the independent review, and then removing the requirement for the commencement of legal proceedings in a magistrate's court. We have clarified matters in relation to a petition objecting to the application is included in point 1, and then clarity on the determination of non-material changes, discharges of condition, and the precise wording of conditions have been clarified in Part C. So then just to advise that the delegated scheme forms part of the council constitution, which would be updated to reflect those amendments. So members, happy for any questions and any discussions and proposals that you have on that.
Thank you, Suzanne. So the offer's on the floor, members. Has anybody got anything they want to add to this? At this point, as I said, quite a number of us were at that workshop, so none of this should really come as a surprise to anybody who was at the workshop. Has anybody got any other observations they want to make at this point? And if not, it's open for a decision from us, so I'll need a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to Suzanne for this. And I suppose this, I appreciate that there was reference to the workshop, but the vast bulk of the work and the discussion took place as part of the independent planning review. And I want to thank everybody who took part in that, because the main focus of it, the thrust of it was for us to streamline, improve the service as best we can. And I'm from our perspective, we went under that with a clear focus to try and weigh an open mind in relation to whatever the outcomes of the process. We trusted it, and we fully intended to implement the recommendations in full, and that remains our position. I suppose there's no beating around the bush in relation to the amendments to the scheme of delegation. There was concerns raised around the removal of all the refusals coming to committee, and because we have seen where there's where members have made their views felt very strongly, in relation to some of the refusals, and from our perspective, there had been some positive developments where we were able to get applications over the line. I trust that the call-in option still remains, and if members do feel that we can, if there's applications that they wish to refer to committee, they still can, and that mechanism's there. It's something that we can keep under review, but I know it was one of the clear recommendations from the planning review, and we accept that. But we would ask, I'm delighted to see that that's been extended to all members of council, because every member of council has a responsibility in relation to planning. And it's not just members of this committee, so it's good that that's extended. I would hope that the planning reasons that need to be given aren't too onerous, and I trust yourself, Chair, that you will take that into consideration when if there's any requests come on. So with that open mind and our faith in independent consultants and independent reporting, that recommendation, I've no issue that we proposing that we accept the recommendation, that we move forward, and that there is a review period built in, so that we can take stock of where we're at in 6 months, and reconsider if it's working or not. So can I propose that we accept the recommend, or that we propose that we accept the recommendations in this report, but with the caveat that there's a review period built in within about 6 months. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Without repeating everything you said, of course, we did bring in that, we did do that review, and maybe there are things that came out of it that some people may not fancy, but we are where we are now, and that's what we wanted to do with the review. So we are here. I'm just going to pause for a wee second here. Come on. Yeah. Councillor Jackson, just Suzanne, just want to address the committee briefly, if we can.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So in terms of the review, absolutely no issue in terms of bringing forward any comments as we move forward on, how it may progress. Spoke with Philip as well. We sort of felt a formal review would maybe be more appropriate further on, around 12 months. But if there's any huge issues in the interim, bring it forward to us. But in terms of reporting back into committee, we would be recommending around 12 months, if that was acceptable.
No issue, Chair. Probably makes more sense if we've got more time for a debate on. No bother.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think that's the logic, that the officer team are applying to it, is give a time to see how it works, and then come back to it. All right. So that's a proposal. Go ahead, Councillor.
Chair. I don't know, Councillor Leonard wants some, but there's just one other point, because I know that within it there's a 4-week call-in period. I'm conscious that there's a lot of applications that are currently in the system that may fall outside that 4 weeks. So would it be possible to circulate as a one-off to all members all the applications that are currently in the system?
We can, yes. There's about 700.
And does that 4-week time frame kick in from the date that, well, for 4 weeks they scan through 700 applications? I don't think that's too onerous, so it's like,
yeah, it's a step moving forward, and we'll be happy to provide you with that. It will come probably in Excel document.
There's quite a lot of applications in that system there, Christopher. That's what you ask for sometimes, but no problem. I would welcome that as well. Actually, I mean, that the more information we have, the better, clearly. you know. So, Councillor Leonard, you were wanting to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Well, Christopher has covered my point there, but it is just in fairness for people that are already in the system that we haven't had the chance to look at them for a call in whenever the 4 weeks is on it. So if whenever that list is date, the 4 weeks could start from then. If that's possible.
100%. That's a very accurate and fair point, I think. So are we all content to move forward with that proposal? Were you going to second that, Councillor Leonard?
Yes, can do if there's nobody else wants to speak on it.
Thank you. Okay, members, so proposed and seconded. Are we all content? Okay, thank you. That's that. Okay, members, moving along. The Councillor Jackson, I haven't forgotten about you, by the way. We'll come to you in relation to that earlier conversation at the start of the meeting. But before we do that, items 9, 10, and 11 are open for information. 12 as well, open for information. Does anybody want to come in on any of those? Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. Just if you maybe bear your indulgence. Hi, and it's around the appeals, and it's appeals maybe have a different. I mean, the appeal that we attended at the PAC. And I would just like to maybe thank officers, both behind the scenes and those in attendance on the day. For one, it was my first time attending the PAC hearing, but I was very content that council officers, some councillors, they were there. I give a robust position of this committee's position on it, and that I was very content with it. So again, just to thank the officers. All right.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher, and I'm glad you enjoyed the experience as well. It sounded very interesting. We have online there Councillor Harkin. So Councillor Harkin, if I see your hand raised there, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to item 7 there, which is in to the paper that was produced about the certificate of lawful use or development, CLUD for houses of multiple occupation. And I think that this states how this works in terms of how CLUD can be enacted. I suppose my issue is with 3.5. Council is working with a HMO licensing team to establish any properties that are operating as HMOs in order to ensure any unauthorised HMO developments are investigated through Council's plan and enforcement powers. And if an enforcement notice is served, the development cannot become immune from enforcement. Now, that would actually block what has been promoted by some organisations as a way to kind of avoid the council's policies around HMOs to avoid regulation. But I suppose the HMO licensing team needs to know about these. So I think for residents, how is the licensing team going to go about establishing where there are HMOs in existence without permission? That would be one question. So that I suppose is something that residents are asking about. So if council officers could give a perspective on that, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. And I think Suzanne's going to address some of those matters for you. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Harkin, the position since the licensing regime came on board, whenever the licensing team receive an application for a licence, they consult with the planning department to see if there has been any permission or what the position is with the building, and we would respond to them. So that background work has been ongoing. That enables us also to look at properties that are potentially unauthorised, and sometimes they're flagged up at that stage.
Okay, councillor Horgan.
Yeah, if I can just ask a follow-up. So if an unregistered HMO is located and enforcement is discussed, can the developer put in an application for retrospective approval?
Through the chair, councillor Harkin, so if we become aware of an unauthorised HMO that is unlicensed and does not have planning permission, or one that is licensed but just doesn't have planning permission, the options are that they, through the enforcement process, that they can put in a planning application to retain the use. That's correct.
All right, councillor Horgan.
All right, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Horgan. Okay, members, and as I said, the other items there are for information as well. Anybody got any further comments they wish to make in relation to any of those? No? Okay. Right. So very finally then, at the beginning of our meeting today, councillor Jackson had a matter that he wished to raise with the officer team. So go ahead, councillor Jackson.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'd indicated that had, no, sorry, I had indicated that we would have to deal with that under confidential business, but must admit, Matt Kennedy had me rattled. Actually, when I was thinking of the correspondence we'd received from TLT solicitors, I was thinking of the wrong matter. So actually, we haven't received legal correspondence in relation to this matter. So in that case, then it would be appropriate to deal with it in open business. So we'll just stay in open business if that's okay, on the basis of openness and transparency. Yes, members, these matters, as you say, were dealt with at the committee and approved by members having overturned the officer recommendation on the basis that they complied with how one. The view taken at the time was that because they fell outside the development limits and the LPP has not yet in place or adopted, that consequently that represented a significant deviation from the area plan. Because the area plan comprises both the LDP and the LPP, and that consequently Suzanne indicated at the time to members that it would have to be referred to the department as a significant deviation, and that was the basis at the time. Prior to the referral going in, we did receive the correspondence from MKA. As officers, we accept that it makes some interesting points. We're considering those points. We haven't reached a conclusion in relation to them as yet, but we are working on that at the moment. If we are able to conclude that the points raised in that are legitimate, then we would not refer the matter to the department because it wouldn't recommend a significant deviation. Certainly, in terms of today, we would sort of need an indication from members that they're of the view that it doesn't need to go to the department. I think we can take that as read and take that in the nod. So certainly, unfortunately, if officers are still of the view that it doesn't comply, we will still have to refer it up. But if we do refer it up at the moment, unfortunately, these disappear into a bit of a black hole up there at the moment. So we are actively looking at the MKA correspondence to see whether or not we can take on board the points that are raised in relation to it. We haven't reached a conclusion on that yet, but we would ask for some latitude on that, because if we can agree with that point, it'll certainly allow the approval to go out more quickly than it otherwise would.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I would respectfully request that, I know you've asked for a bit of latitude. I think, from my perspective, anyway, I agree with every point in the correspondence. I wouldn't have made a proposal that was contrary to an area plan that was just adopted. And one of the arguments, in terms of HOU1, the exception test was debated. It was discussed at length in relation in the roundtable discussions. when we were developing the draft plan strategy. So, and the intent was for this exact scenario where there's areas of really high social housing need, and there isn't any available housing land nearby. So there's the intent of the policy. We know what the intent was because we wrote it. And I certainly would dispute the fact that it goes against the LDP because, again, we wrote it. So there's I would, in terms of giving a bit of a direction on this, that's where we sit. And I would, well, I let other people speak for themselves, but I would imagine that it's the view of the committee, given that the committee endorsed the proposal last month. But in terms of latitude, I would respect, given this significant housing crisis that we've got and the thrust behind the proposal, I would request that it's dealt with as a matter of urgency. Thanks.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The steer's obviously helpful. I'm assuming that it's the view of the committee generally in relation to that. There's usually a window for complex issues like this to be discussed between the end of planning committee and the start of full council before we get into the cycle of preparing for a new committee again. So it's just that window of opportunity. Didn't appear in the last month. We do believe we'll get an opportunity here now, subject to a couple of things.
Okay, happy enough. Okay, members, anybody else, any comment they want to make in relation to that? If not, all that remains for us to do today is to close the book on this one today, members. Thanks for your attendance and your, as usual, your attention to the detail of the meeting. And I wish everybody safely home. Okay, thank you, members.